Hi, I'm Suzanne and I'm part of the Latin Link team in Guatemala and Mexico. Well, I'm usually live in Guatemala, but at the moment I'm in the UK. So about 5 weeks ago, I travelled here to the UK for what was planned to be 5 weeks of meetings and visits. And a few days after I left, Guatemala closed their borders and closed the airport. And within a few days of arriving here, the UK went into shutdown as well. So I came down to Devon to be with my mum, and I'm here kind of waiting for what happens next. I should have flown back to Guatemala last week, but I'm waiting for news about whether the airport will be when they'll open that airport and when things will get back to normal in Guatemala as well. Well, in Guatemala, my job is about mobilisation and sending. So that means I work alongside churches, helping them to catch a vision for mission and supporting them as they send missionaries. So part of my job is alongside churches, teaching and supporting, but also there's a part which is about recruitment and recruiting new people who would serve with Latin Link in different countries of the world. So at the moment, we're looking at ways in which we can do all of that communications type stuff online. Just before I left, I'd recruited a volunteer who's helping with communications. So we're looking at how we can put information and inspiring stories on our Facebook page and Instagram to help encourage Guatemalans to think about missions, how they can get involved and be part of it. I also have two candidates who were accepted on our Stride programme, and we're waiting to hear of their possible placements in the UK and in Spain. Obviously, we're probably not going to get any concrete news from those possibilities for a while yet. But in the meantime, I'm talking with them regularly and looking at ways in which they can do some training and do some preparation for mission service cross-culturally. And there's lots of resources online that we're looking at the moment. And the other thing that I'm involved in is with a number of other organisations. We're looking we are organising a big conference in Guatemala in July, and the theme of it is mission and migration, a theme that affects all of us in one way or another. And we have a number of international speakers who are due to come to that. And just this week we have a meeting when we need to decide what we're going to do about that, whether we postpone for the next year or reorganise it as a digital conference or what else. So please pray for us as we discern the best way forward in that. I have another aspect to my role, and I work with the international leadership team of Latin Link, and my role is to oversee mobilisation and development. So as part of that, I am in contact with all our short-term coordinators and helping to support them as they support our short-termers in making decisions about whether to stay where they are or to return to their home country. And just helping us all to adapt to this new normal of how we minister and how we live in this unprecedented time. Part of that is to look to the future about how do we develop as an organisation, and we hope that coronavirus won't be around forever, but we do recognise that international travel in particular might be affected for the next year or possibly more. And so we're beginning to look and plan ahead of how can we as an organisation continue to fulfil our vision to support Latin American churches wherever they might be when we're living in with limitations of travel. In Guatemala, the government has told everybody to stay at home, and they can only leave to buy food or for medical reasons. And they also have introduced a curfew, so from 6 o'clock at night nobody should be out on the streets. So that affects the poor communities more than most. For many people who are in very informal work situations, they may work on a daily basis and get paid daily. So if they can't work, that means that very soon, within a couple of days, they actually can't feed themselves or their families. The government has some help with this and are giving out care packages but only to a certain limited number of people. And so there's lots of people who fall through the gaps in that. Our team in Guatemala are working alongside a number of projects that want to help people who are falling through the gaps in that system. So one of our members works in a rural area. The project she works with is helping families and individuals who wouldn't get help otherwise. And they're able to share food parcels or emergency supplies with them. Another project we've often worked with in Guatemala City, they usually work with children as a kind of after-school club. They've actually reorganised their building into a hostel, and that they're opening that up overnight for those people who normally live on the streets. So those people who would have been arrested for being outside after curfew, they're now able to have a shelter. Well, I've been really encouraged by the way in which our team is connecting in new ways. In Guatemala, I'm still involved in our monthly prayer meetings. We get together now by Zoom. And I see that amongst our short-term coordinators as well, and in different ways amongst the community of Latin League. We're connecting in new ways and strengthening that sense of community. So that really encourages me. Well, firstly, I think this time is a time when many people are at home and away from the normal busyness of life. And I think it's a time when many people will be rethinking or re-evaluating some of the things in their lives. And I think it will be a time when God might be challenging us about the way in which we live out our purpose and feeling His calling on our lives. So I would really like to pray that God would use this time to call more and more Christians from Guatemala into missions. And I'm praying that the things that we can do online, the communication stuff that we can include on our online platforms, that they would inspire and encourage people to be more involved in missions. The other prayer request I'd have would be for wisdom as we make this decision next week or this week about the conference that we've got in July. Please pray with us that we'll make wise decisions about the best way forward. And then also I'd ask you to pray with us for discernment about the way forward for us as an organisation, and having new ideas about how we can serve the Latin American Church in this time when there are so many limitations on us. So thank you for joining me on my sofa. I hope you've enjoyed that and understand a bit more of my situation and the situation in Guatemala. Thank you for your prayers. Bye.